All right. So you said you were Diamond 1, you said? Like you just got Diamond 1. And so your damage per round 142 is actually really good. You want to be averaging like about like 140 damage per round. Your KD is really good. I think your KD is better than mine as of this act. You have a really high headshot percentage. You're top 4.2%. And your run rate, you're doing great, man. Like all these stats are like really good. Nah, like low key, yeah, like your stats right now, this is all really good. I guess like the question is, what do you feel like is hindering your growth? You feel like it's playing on mouse and keyboard? Like that's where you're having the most issues with? It's my aim, it's bad. What, were you playing like console games before, like on console or with controller? Before switching to PC? Yes. Okay. So this is one thing I'll say. If you're not used to playing on mouse and keyboard, it's always going to be a rough transition going from controller to mouse and keyboard. And there's like specific things that you can do to get better specifically at mouse and keyboard. One thing I would recommend is being able to this is what I would do. I would download AimLab and I'll show you some scenarios that will help you in AimLab, and then I'll show you something in Valorant. When it comes to aim, that is a skill that you will develop over time exponentially the more and more you play both AimLabs and Valorant like together. And I will say that while yes, aim is very important, and I've always said this in like other videos and stuff like that, aim is very important in the sense that like, yeah, you need to hit your shots, but I think what matters a little bit more is game sense. My game sense is bad too. Yeah, I think that's probably the more important thing to develop. Now people are saying, well, how do you develop game sense? Game sense is, when it comes to developing your game sense, that's just playing Valorant a lot. Right? So the more you throw yourself into comp, and the more you play Valorant, the more you're learning the game. This is something I learned from CSGO, is usually in the middle of like every entryway is usually like headshot level. Right? Obviously there's exceptions, like Reyna's down there where there's steps. But this will keep you like in good positioning with your crosshair to be lined up for a headshot, right? So like see halfway was like that dude's head, halfway of this box. That's a good indicator of where heads are. And that will keep your aim pretty consistent. And again, it's just like familiarizing yourself with the map, like knowing like headshot angles. Like I was a little too high on that one, but I think if you're gonna error on one way or the other, jeez, if you're gonna error one way and the other, you want to error on a little bit higher than lower. Some people disagree with that, but and then there's just people who use ops and deathmatch, which is fun. So the one thing I'll say about like loss streaks, you're gonna get them. It's gonna happen. Never be discouraged by loss streaks. Loss streaks happen to the best players, to the worst players. You just have to have like, what's gonna help you break this is like having good mental. That's pretty much it. Like making sure, yeah, you know, yeah. So even when this happens, you know, just reset your mindset. You know, go into the next few games. If it becomes a lot, you know, just take a break. And what we'll do is pick the character you feel like you're the best with. Chamber, okay, that's cool. And then let's keep it on. Let's play around one site. Let's play around B site. Mid and B main are open for me. Okay, so I could either go approach through mid.
You can keep up. Who am I kidding?
Or I can approach through B main.
Blocking sight. Spike planted.
I think you. Alright, I'll pause the game timer. So the one thing I'll say about that situation is that like in that 1v1, I felt like you were too scared, right? My goal is to make sure to delay you as soon as or as long as possible for the bomb to go off, right? So you're in a position where you kind of have to take initiative to like fight me, right? I like the bait with the TP. That was really good because it forced me to look your way, like when you were lane. What I would have done is you put a TP here and you put a TP here. Is like, yeah, set that TP up and then maybe trip near one of your TPs, right? So like tripping one of your TPs, if I run into it, I have to look down to shoot at it, and then that's when you can like peek off of me, right? So that's very like specific into like character stuff, right? And that comes over time when you just like play a lot of the game and you play one character. And that's something that I would also recommend is just play one character and like get really good at that character. And then you can kind of branch off and do whatever.
Blocking sight. Planted. Blocking sight. Watch this.
Nice. Yeah. Good stuff. See, that was a good trip because I thought I could get past it without activating it, and I couldn't, right? So then you knew where I was. Right now, knowing where I am, I have one of two options. I either push market or I push CT. So yeah, you did everything right there. That was good. Like this is what I'll say too. So I say in the beginning, in the first few rounds, I think you're kind of feeling it out and like adjusting to me, right? And that's basically how most games of Valorant work, right? Like in the beginning, the first few rounds is more like feeling out like what the enemy team likes to do. Part of game sense is being able to read people and study their bad habits and then capitalize on their bad habits, right? So I think overall, I think your aim is fine. I don't think your aim is really that bad. If you just feel like you're not landing shots, just run into a deathmatch and just hit a couple heads and go from there. Can I try attacking? Yeah, sure. We can do that.
Bot coming back. Found the swarm grenade out.
This is what I was thinking, okay? I heard you in B main. I recalled my turret. You heard the recall. I won't do that setup every time, just to let you know. But I set up B lane so that way if you I thought it was behind the box. It's wall bangable. Everything where I shot was wall bangable. If I shot you through the green box, that's just crazy. But so I knew you were B main because I heard you B main. I recalled my turret, right? So hearing you B main, I forced myself to show myself to you. I had a feeling you were going to try to smoke me off and push lane. Once I knew you were going to push lane, then I popped off my turret and I popped off, or my turret, I popped off my alarm bot and I popped off my molly. That makes you vulnerable. And if you went straight for a plant, like a hard plant, I just had to wallbang the wall. I capitalize on like how I can manipulate you in that scenario. And especially like with Killjoy on B, that's going to be like really hard to kind of like think. So, or thinking of like how to overtake me, right? I won't do the same setup every time, so just be wary. But I think, yeah, I think the main mistake was like going lane. And against a Killjoy, that's like really rough too. So remember, you don't have to only go through B main. You can go through mid.
Turret down. Okay, message. This scheiße hurts.
I think you're playing a little too impatiently. I think you need to slow down and assess the situation a little more. And don't just think about, I gotta get to sight. And I think sometimes that's my mistake too. Like sometimes like people, like we get a pick And I'm like, oh, we gotta go to site. We gotta pick. Let's go. I tend to be like an initiating type of person where like I want to go and take advantage of like the fact that we have a person on the other team that's down a player. In scenarios, especially like in 1v1s or 1v2s or whatever, you have to play a little bit more patient. You have to find the opportunities to take advantage of to be able to counteract the person, right? So I heard you dash here, which tells me, okay, he's not going to push market. He's probably going to push CT. You smoked the turret, which told me definitely you were pushing CT. And then all I had to do was play off a site and then just kind of hold an angle. I had a molly on site. So I will say playing against Killjoy makes it a little harder. But just try to be more patient. Take it a little bit slower. Don't try to force it, you know? Like take your time. Okay?
Recalling my bot. Get out of my way! Found them. Is this the best?
So kind of the same thing, right? I feel like you're trying to make an engagement happen. And like I said, I just try to take it a little bit slower. Like don't worry about making noise. Like literally take your time. You have like a whole minute and a half to try to take site, right? Use the time. You make me want to wonder what you're doing, right? Be a wild card, you know, be unpredictable. And part of being unpredictable is like taking it like as slow as you can, especially like in this scenario where it's like 1v1, right? Because that time I heard you be main, so I recalled my turret. I had my turret in market, so I knew you were gonna go market, and more so because I heard you making a lot of noise coming out of B main, and I just waited for you to make a mistake. If you go lane, right, even if you updraft and knives like you did, you're vulnerable, right? So I'll say this about like against Killjoy, you want to make sure that you're preparing yourself mentally for the alarm bot, because that's what's going to mess you up the most, because it's going to make you vulnerable. So yeah, just more patience. Just try to play it super slow. Play this one like really slow, okay? And I'll try not to be as cheesy with my stuff, with my alarm stuff, okay?
Bot coming back. Recalling my bot. Initiated.
30 seconds left. Spike planted.
Placing swarm grenade. Swarm grenade out. Caught one.
Okay, you did that way better. I actually messed up my ult, and there was a spot that you could have saved that would have saved. That was safe-ish. I mean, I had time to throw a molly, so it kind of maybe would have screwed you up. But you probably could have tanked some of the damage of the molly and then dash out. But I think you used dash. Anyways, one thing I'll say, even though you lost that round, that was a way better round than the other 2 rounds that you played. I had no idea where you were. When the moment you slowed down, I had to think more about, okay, so he didn't make any presence be made. You played it way better. You were way more patient. It made me guess more about where could he be. In my head, my guess was that you might come through mid to CT. That was the guess that I made trying to read you, right? And then what kind of messed me up too, I had my turret on B site, but I had to, in order for me to push CT, I had to like let go of my turret. And I think where you messed up is that the turret makes a noise when it's on, and I was away from it, and I think you could have gone onto site and planted the bomb. So if you don't hear the turret, take the opportunity to then try to go and plant the bomb, because I'm far away from it. That means that like I'm not in the range, right? But you played that way better. You played that way smarter. You took your time. I think you took a little too long. Once you were lane, you had to push site. I think once you get to lane and I didn't hear you, I didn't do anything, right? I think that's when you push site and you plant. Granted, I could still be CT, but I think when my turret was off, that's the indicator that you could have taken site. But I think that was good. I think. Do you feel like, okay? Here's why I ask you, Yuri. Do you feel like you learned a lot? Yeah. And do you feel like everything that I said kind of made sense? With attacking. Okay. And yeah, especially when, like I said, especially when you're at a disadvantage and it's like a 1v3, a 1v4, or a 1v2, whatever, like you against the world, what's going to set you up for success is being the more patient one and trying to find the 1v1s and abuse other people's disadvantages against you, right? Obviously, there's going to be scenarios where you're in that 1v3 and like, yeah, you don't have any utility, so it's like, okay, it's really stacked up against you and you might lose. You might lose that round. Not gonna lie, my aim carries me. Yeah, I think your aim is actually really good. But like I said, patience will get you very, very far. And then your game sense, you felt like your game sense was the weakest thing. And we narrowed it down to it being your patience. And like, how should I engage somebody? Think more about your engagements, right? And narrow down how can I make this the best case scenario for me and go from there, you know? And the more you do that, and the more you're, like I said, you're in those scenarios, over time, you'll develop that skill set very, very, very high. All right, man, GG's. That was awesome. That was cool.